Okay, let's talk about a really big move in the life sciences world. $17 billion. That's what Merck Group paid for Sigma-Aldrich back in 2015. Quite something.
It really was a headline grabber. Before that, you had Merck Millipore, known mostly for, the bioprocessing side, actually making the
Right,
drugs.
the manufacturing tech.
Exactly. And then Sigma-Aldrich, they were, well, everywhere in the lab, the go-to for reagents, chemicals, plus they had this surprisingly strong digital setup already, e-commerce and all that.
Yeah, the price tag is huge. But what we really want to unpack in this deep dive is the why. What did Merck see? What market insights? What trends told them, okay, this $17 billion bet makes sense?
We're looking at the market studies they did, trend analysis, checking out the competition.
And even talking to customers, finding out what they wanted. It's not just a business deal story. It's about understanding the forces shaping this whole industry.
Right.
Okay, so $17 billion.
Yep.
That signals Sigma-Aldrich wasn't just any company. What made them such an essential target for Merck?
Well, it's that market leadership they had. They were dominant in lab chemicals, analytical regions, basic life science tools. It was massive.
How massive are we talking?
Their product list had something like over 300,000 items. And they weren't just selling domestically, they were global, serving research labs, big pharma, industrial clients, everyone.
So Merck wasn't just buying products, they were buying access, instant access.
Exactly. Immediate access to a whole different slice of the customer base. Merck was strong later in the drug pipeline, manufacturing. Sigma was strong earlier. Research, discovery. It's a very neat fit, covering more of that whole journey.
And you mentioned their digital side.
Yes, that was key. They had well-developed digital sales channels, a solid e-commerce platform, efficient logistics. In today's world, that's gold. Plus, just strong operational capabilities overall. It let Merck diversify beyond its traditional pharma and healthcare focus, too.
Okay, and the sources we looked at, they mentioned the shift. Customers wanting more than just, a bottle of this or a box of that.
Yeah, the research really picked up on that. A growing demand for, end-to-end solutions. Customers didn't want just a product. They wanted a partner.
A partner. How so?
Someone who could support the whole life cycle. From the initial R&D bench work right through to manufacturing scale-up, this was especially true with biologics coming online. These complex drugs needed integrated support and personalized medicine, too.
Right. Complexity demands integration. And Sigma-Aldrich had a really strong presence in North America, didn't they? That was apparently a gap for Merck.
A significant one. Merck hadn't quite cracked the U.S. market to the same extent as maybe Europe. Sigma-Aldrich, they were practically a household name in American labs.
So established brand, distribution.
Deep customer relationships, technical know-how, especially for those high-purity or custom reagents labs often need. For Merck, acquiring Sigma was like hitting the fast-forward button in the U.S. instant leadership position.
Instead of years building it organically.
Precisely. So it wasn't just about getting bigger, it was strategic diversification. Balancing revenue streams, reducing reliance on any one region.
Responding to that whole globalization trend in life sciences.
Absolutely. And, putting Sigma together with Merck Millipore, boom. Suddenly, you have this comprehensive supplier for almost anything a lab or bioprocess facility might need.
Okay, so Merck clearly did their homework. You mentioned market research, trend analysis, customer interviews, or some of the killer insights that really sealed the deal in their minds.
Well, a really big one, tying back to what we just discussed, was this clear rising demand for integrated platforms. Customers, pharma companies, research labs, biotechs, they kept saying it.
Saying what exactly?
They wanted suppliers who could offer the whole package. Chemicals, reagents, sure, but also the analytical tools, the support services, and easy-to-use digital platforms for ordering and managing everything.
Fewer suppliers, more capability from each one, especially with things getting more complex and regulated.
That's it. Manufacturing biologics isn't simple, and the regulations are tough. So customers increasingly valued suppliers with validated, high-quality products and really strong technical backup. Sigma-Aldrich had that reputation.
Okay, that makes sense. What else did the research show?
Well, it also pointed to steady growth ahead for the research reagent market itself, driven by R&D spending, both public and private funding increasing.
Especially in hot areas like personalized medicine, cancer immunotherapy.
Exactly. So the core market Sigma-Aldrich served looked pretty healthy and set to expand. That provides a solid foundation.
And Sigma's own strengths, beyond just the products. You mentioned the brand, the digital side.
Huge factors. The Sigma-Aldrich brand meant trust, reliability, and their digital infrastructure, that e-commerce platform, the global logistics, it wasn't just nice to have, it was a major competitive asset.
Giving Merck a way to reach customers faster, more easily.
Right. It offered Merck a fast track into new customer segments and regions without having to build all that complex digital plumbing from scratch.
The timing feels important too. This was happening right as labs were really starting to digitize their workflows, wasn't it?
Spot on. The research flagged that trend. Scientists ordering online, expecting fast fulfillment. Sigma was already there. Merck buying them meant they could capitalize on that digital shift immediately.
So this wasn't just a hunch. Merck had solid data, clear market signals, telling them this big investment aligned with where the industry was heading.
Precisely. It gave them the confidence, that this massive deal wasn't just big, it was strategically sound. It addressed future market needs, not just current ones.
Okay, beyond those specific customer demands and Sigma's strengths, were there broader industry currents pushing things in this direction?
Yeah.
Big picture trends.
Oh, definitely. One major one was this convergence, life sciences meeting digital technology head on,
Meaning?
meaning lab automation, digital ordering systems, integrated supply chains. They weren't futuristic ideas anymore. They were becoming essential for efficiency, for speeding up research.
So Merck likely figured that future competition wouldn't just be about the science, but also about the user experience, how easy it is to order, how fast things arrive.
I think that's exactly right. And Sigma-Aldrich's existing strengths in digital commerce and logistics gave them an immediate leg up there. Yeah. Another big trend was supplier consolidation.
Companies wanting fewer, bigger suppliers.
Yeah, especially in biopharma manufacturing. They wanted to streamline purchasing, simplify quality assurance, cut costs. Finding strategic vendors who could offer more was appealing.
And Sigma, with its high-quality ingredients for complex drugs, plus Merck Millipore's bioprocessing tools, that combo made them a very attractive single source.
It really did. It positioned the combined company perfectly as that kind of comprehensive solution provider everyone seemed to be looking for. And then there's geography.
Asia Pacific.
Yeah, the growth potential there was huge. Sigma-Aldrich already had established operations internationally, which Merck saw as a valuable springboard for expanding its own reach in those key emerging markets.
So the market intelligence wasn't just confirming a trend, but several converging trends, making the timing look pretty good.
Exactly. It painted a picture where this acquisition made sense on multiple strategic levels, all supported by where the market was clearly heading.
Okay, so the deal is done. Massive undertaking. How did Merck actually stitch these two giants together? What did the integration look like on the ground?
Well, the main strategy was to bring Sigma-Aldrich and the existing Merck Millipore business under one roof, creating a new, unified life science sector.
Sounds simple, but I bet the reality was complex.
Oh, for sure. It meant some major operational moves, things like consolidating manufacturing sites to get efficiencies, which is always tricky, harmonizing those huge product catalogs.
Getting rid of overlaps, making it easy for customers to find things.
Right. And realigning the sales and commercial teams. Shifting the focus to being, customer-centric, solution-oriented, rather than just pushing products from either legacy company.
What were the absolute must-dos during that integration? What couldn't they afford to mess up?
Top priorities were definitely holding on to Sigma-Aldrich's brand equity people, trusted that name, and really leveraging their digital strength. That e-commerce platform was crucial.
Don't break what's working.
Exactly. But at the same time, they wanted to inject Merck's own innovation capabilities and scientific depth into the mix. And they moved pretty fast on cross-selling.
Bundling things together.
Yeah, offering packages of products and services that spanned both legacy companies, making it easier for customers who previously had to deal with two separate suppliers.
It sounds like keeping the customer experience smooth was front and center.
Very much so. And market research didn't stop when the deal closed. It actually guided the integration.
How so?
They used it to track customer loyalty, figure out the best ways to streamline access to the combined product lines, and spot opportunities for genuinely new integrated offerings that played to the combined strengths. They were listening closely to customer feedback throughout.
So constantly checking if the integration was actually working for the people buying from them.
Right. Alongside that, they made targeted investments where needed upgrading IT systems to handle everything, optimizing logistics, funding new product development that spanned both sides.
And did it work? Did they see results reasonably quickly?
It seems so. By 2016, Reports indicated the integration was, largely complete, and the numbers started showing accelerated performance, gains in market share, and just a stronger competitive position overall, especially against rivals like Thermo Fisher or GE Healthcare Life Sciences back then.
Looking back at this whole massive deal, what are the key lessons here? What can other companies, maybe even in different industries, take away from Merck's playbook?
I think this Merck Sigma deal is often seen as, well, almost a textbook case of using market intelligence really effectively in M&A.
Going beyond just the balance sheet numbers.
Absolutely. It wasn't just about the financial fit. It was about deeply understanding customer needs, where they were headed. It was about assessing digital readiness, which is huge now, and looking at the potential for future innovation, not just current product lines.
So it's really about making sure the deal aligns with where the whole market is going, not just where it is today.
That's a great way to put it, aligning with those big trends, with customer expectations. And it also highlights how important it is to integrate those digital systems, those customer-facing platforms, really early and effectively post-acquisition. Don't leave it as an afterthought.
Right. Get the plumbing connected quickly.
Yeah. I mean, the core takeaway is that really understanding your industry's direction and figuring out precisely how an acquisition helps you navigate or even lead those changes. That's what can turn a big bet into a transformative success story.
This has been fascinating, really getting into the weeds of that decision. So just to recap the core drivers, Merck saw the shift towards integrated end-to-end solutions was real. They knew digital capability wasn't optional anymore, it was essential. And they recognized the continued growth runway in life sciences globally. Sigma-Aldrich ticked all those boxes.
Precisely. And hopefully for you listening, digging into the why behind the specific move gives you a clearer view of the dynamics at play in life sciences and just how critical good market intelligence is when you're making these huge strategic calls.
Definitely. And maybe one final thought for you to chew on. Think about those core themes: integration, digitalization, global expansion. How might those forces be reshaping other fields, maybe even your own work? What seemingly separate capabilities or companies, if brought together, could create some unexpected, powerful new value down the road?